You will get to know. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ثم ما بعد. The topic today is the topic of the Friday khutbah, but I want to give more details about it because of its importance for us as Muslims. When we look at recite Al-Quran, we find plenty of ayat that talks about enjoining good and forbidding evil. And this should be understood in the context of building ethical and social norm in Islam. So Muslims are supposed to be proactive. They should not be passive, seeing something wrong and saying or doing nothing about it, or seeing people doing good and they don't care about what they're doing, or join them or participate one way or the other. So Muslims should always be agents of good. And the concept of al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa nahy an al-munkar comes in the Islamic formula to establish this good, to be agents of good. There are three circles around us to achieve this goal. One circle, the immediate circle, is our conscience, our awareness of the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the concept of taqwa, right? To fulfill our duties towards Allah, to know that Allah is watching us, right? This in of itself should prevent us from doing evil and will encourage us to do good. That's why when you look at Al-Quran, always reminds us of taqwallah, taqwallah. Be mindful of Allah. Fulfill your duties towards Allah. And some translate at fear Allah, right? And it's interesting that this reminder of fear of Allah comes usually associated with one of the laws, the obligations, especially when it comes to interacting with people, when it comes to huququl ibad, the rights of the people. If you read the ayat that talks about family, you know, how to treat your husband or your wife, and rights of inheritance and divorce and custody and all these things, Al-Quran constantly reminds us to be aware of Allah, because you can abuse your authority. Everyone has some authority somewhere, family or community or workplace, and people loves to abuse their power, and that's most of the time this is what happens. So the first circle that prevents evil is the self-piety, to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is aware of what you're doing. إذا خلوت الدهر يوما فلا تقل خلوت ولكن قل علي رقيب ولا تحسبن الله يغفل ساعة ولا أن ما تخفيه عنه يغيب لهونا لعمر الله حتى تتابعت ذنوب على آثارهن ذنوب فيا ليت أن الله يغفر ما مضى ويأذن في توباتنا فنتوب. The Sha'ir says that when you are alone, never think you are alone. Allah is with you. Allah is Raqib. One of the attributes of Allah is Sami', Al-Basir, Al-Alim, Al-Khabir, Al-Raqib. Allah is watching us. Nothing hides from Him. So Islam focused so much on this concept of Iman and Taqwa so that we police ourselves. We don't need an external power to tell us what's right and what's wrong. We know what's right and what's wrong, and we do the wrong despite the fact that we know it is wrong, evil. So there are plenty of ayat, of course, talks about the importance of taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be aware and mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He's watching you and He subhanahu wa ta'ala expects you to behave in a certain way. So this is the first circle that salah and siyam were prescribed to achieve this, right? Fast in order to achieve taqwa, right? كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. And obviously, as you can imagine, when we have more taqwa, we'll have less evil and we'll do more good. This is what happened, for example, in Ramadan. People spend, do good deeds, share, feed others, invite people over, right? Because their iman level is so high, and they know. Yesterday, I was talking to our youth, And I asked them this question: if someone in Ramadan sneaked in the kitchen and ate something, and nobody saw him, would this count? He said, no, his fasting is invalid anymore. Why? But I said, but nobody sees him. He said, everybody said in the same time, but Allah sees him. Right? And that's the point. Right? The second circle, if this circle is not good enough, is not strong enough, and a person would do evil, right? Then the second circle kicks in. The second circle is what we're talking about, enjoining good and forbidding evil, which is an obligation upon us. We'll talk about this a little more. If someone does not have enough taqwa, then he does something wrong, abuse someone, right? Then the family, neighbors, friends, they should step in. Said, Ya fulan taqillah, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What you are doing is wrong. Right? When you see someone abusing his wife, for example, or abusing an animal, or someone drinks and doing something obviously haram, then it is our duty to enjoin good or forbid evil. Because his taqwa and iman obviously are not strong enough. So the society actually should prevent this evil from existing. Because what happens is that evil can harm the individual or can harm his family, his neighborhood, can hurt the whole community, right? Depends on what kind of harm he's causing, right? And what's dangerous is that when this evil goes unchecked, it becomes part of the norm. And that's so dangerous. Islam should not live peacefully and normally with evil. We should actually try to stop evil. Otherwise, it becomes normal and people will not be ashamed of it anymore. And this is exactly what we are witnessing now. Evil became normal. Not only that, it's protected. So if you go and try to change it, what are you talking about? You'll be politically incorrect or socially incorrect. You have to live with this. It's normal, it's okay. It's not normal, it's not okay. The fact that I cannot change it does not make it right. Okay, so that's the second circle. And I mentioned the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ who said, give the example of people who were sailing in a boat that has two decks, and those who were living in the lower deck, they used, in order to get water, they have to go upstairs and bother the people on the upper deck. So they said, if we just dig a hole in the bottom of the boat to get water easily, that will be easier for us and for them. So those who are on the upper deck, if they let them do what they want to do, then the whole boat will sink, right? But they have to stop them. They have to do something. That's the example that Rasulullah ﷺ gave us. If you're an apartment in a big building and fire comes in one place, nobody is safe. You cannot just say, oh, I'm safe here. Is there a problem? It is your problem because you live in the society. It will eventually come to you, right? So that's the second important circle to enjoying good and forbid evil.
Yeah, the microphone is not on, I think.
I don't have a microphone. Oh, all right. Okay, so this makes my life easier. So, and that's why when we do not forbid evil, we cannot just say it's their problem, we are safe. We are all in the same boat, as they say. Allah said, وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً لَا تُصِيبَنَّ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْكُمْ خَاصَّةً. Right? Be aware of a fitna that is not going to strike only those who do wrong. It will affect everybody else. It will affect everyone else. And we know the hadith I mentioned yesterday also that when Allah ordered the angels to destroy a village because it's full of evil, they said, Ya Allah, but there is someone who's a good worshiper, he never disobeyed you. And Allah said, start with him. Because his face did not frown. He did not feel like disgusted or did not feel sad that all this evil going on, and he did not care. So when we see someone or some group of people committing something that displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we should feel bad about it, regardless whether we can change it or not. If you don't feel bad, then we are a part of this. So the punishment actually happened to all of them, including this worshipper who never committed any sin. Right? The third circle in this structure of enjoying good and forbidding evil, if someone does not have enough taqwa, and people tell him stop the evil he's doing and he does not really care, then the third circle must kick in. And the third circle is the authority of the government, the rule of law. He must be punished. Again, the idea is to stop the evil, not to punish the person. And in the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna Allah la yaz'u bis-sultan ma la yaz'u bil-Quran." That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inhibits people from doing wrong by the sultan, by the power of the political authority, that which he does not inhibit by the Quran. The Quran says this is wrong, don't do this. He does not care. People, neighbors tell him, haram, taqillah, that's not right. He does not care. And then the political authority must use its power to stop him from doing it. Right? So because sometimes Al-Quran is enough. People listen to Al-Quran and listen and obey. But not everybody like this. People talk to him, he does not care, and he's committing his crimes, then he should be punished by the political authority or the legal system, actually, the law enforcement. Right? Of course, the due process must take place, but eventually, that's why the concept or the idea of hudud or punishment in any legal system in the world is reward and punishment. There must be punishment. Okay? So that the person would think a million times before he commit his crime. Right? So enjoining good and forbidding evil is the second circle that Al-Quran emphasized, and Rasulullah warned us that if you don't do that, if people see someone practicing injustice and do not set him right, Allah will almost certainly visit them all with severe punishment. When Umar became the caliph, the first speech he gave, he said that when you see me doing something good, help me. When I do wrong, correct me. And he said, don't worry about this. We'll correct you with our swords if needed. And this is when the community is strong. Yeah, Umar was a great person, no doubt. Genius, intelligent, smart, taqwa, and pious. But he was a great leader because the community was a strong community. They were willing to enjoy good and forbid evil. And when Umar was, so much clothes came from Bahrain or from Yemen, and he distributed it. Everybody got this amount of clothes. And he was giving khutbah one day, and he said that, Isma'u wa ati'u, listen and obey your leadership. And someone stood up. And that's Umar. You know, many people are scared of Umar because of his personality, and and someone stood up and said, no, we'll never listen and obey to what you say unless or until you explain to us why you gave every one of us one piece of clothes and you are wearing two of them. You got two to yourself. So Umar asked his son Abdullah to stand up to answer him. He said, Abdullah, just answer him. And he explained in front of everybody. He said, okay, my father is a tall man, and one piece is not going to be enough for him, so I gave him mine. So I give him mine. So that's why he has two. And the man said, now we listen and obey. So there was no absolute power in Islam. You don't give someone, because absolute power leads to absolute corruption, right? So when people figured out that it is his son who donated his clothes to his father, then they said, now I understand what it is. People should be vigilant, and they hold their leaders accountable, talk to them honestly and frankly. And when people have this feeling of being responsible for the well-being of the entire society, they will do it automatically. Okay? So when we raise our children, we have also to be aware that what we consider evil to them is normal. You don't see anything wrong with this. And we have to talk frankly about these things, because we have limits, we have point of reference, right? The fact that everybody is doing something does not mean it's right. Follow the truth even if you have to walk alone. قُلْ لَا يَسْتَوِي الْخَبِيثُ وَالطَّيِّبُ. Allah says, say good and evil cannot be equal. وَلَوْ أَعْجَبَكَ كَثْرَةُ الْخَبِيثِ. Even the evil is much more than the good. Walk alone if needed. Don't go with the crowd. Rasulullah told us, don't just go with the crowd. Don't be imma. The name is imma. When people do good, you do good. When people do evil, you do evil with them. Don't do that. But وَطِّنُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Discipline yourself. When people do good with them. When they do evil, don't do evil with them. You may be given names, that's fine. Radical, conservative, extremists, close-minded, outdated, fine, let it be. So, what is the ruling of enjoining good and forbidding evil? It is a must, or it's recommended. The ulama said that al-amr ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar is called fardu kifaya. Fardu kifaya means that it is sufficient for some to do it. Not every individual has to do it, but some people have to do it. Right? If a group of people did it, that would be enough. Okay? However, it could be fard ayn in some situations. If you are the only one who saw this evil, then you must do it yourself. Or you are in charge. You are the head of the family, or you are president or leader, then you have to do it yourself. Or no one can do it except you. Then you have to do it. And it becomes wajib now. In some situations, especially when it comes to scholars and ulama, because they are influential, there's something called rukhsa and azima. Rukhsa means allowance or permission. So if someone put the sword on your neck and said that, say the word of kufr, just say it. That's fine. You can do that. Or curse Allah and Muhammad, otherwise I will shoot you in the head. You can do that. And many Sahaba did this. And they came crying to the Prophet, said, Ya Rasulullah, they forced me to say these words of kufr. And the Prophet said, how do you find your heart? I said, my heart is full of iman, but I just said it because they threatened me. I said, that's fine. If they do it again, say it again. Don't worry. Quran talked about this. So this is called rukhsa. And the opposite of rukhsa or permission is azima. Azima means determination. That you do what is right no matter what. So in this situation, you have to choose between a rukhsa or azima. You can take the rukhsa if you want to. Nothing wrong with that. Say what they want to hear to save your life. Or someone said, no, I will never say this even if you're going to kill me. Let it be. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Rasulullah. And then loses his or her life like the first shaheed in Islam. You know who's first shaheed in Islam? The first one, murder in Islam. Huh?
The brother of,
Not the brother of. Anybody?
son of Adam.
No. Shaheed in Islam, in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Who is the first one who was killed fi sabilillah in the time of the Prophet?
The one who used to do the
No?
No, not Bilal.
Sumayya. Yes, thank you. She was a woman. The first shaheed in Islam was a woman. Sumayya, the mother of Ammar and the wife of Yasir. She refused to say what they wanted to say, and she was stabbed to death. So people, in many situations, they have the option to take the rukhsa or the azima. But in some situations, the ulama understand that they don't have these two options. They have only one option, is to take the azima. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal is the best example of this. During his time, the caliph at that time, Al-Mu'tasim, he tried to spread a particular theological madhab called Khalq al-Quran. We can talk about this later. That Al-Quran is not the word of Allah, it's created by Allah. We can talk about this in more details in the future. And they actually forced all ulama to say that. And they beat them badly. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, one of the four great imams in Sunni Islam, was tortured very badly. And other ulama, they took the rukhsa. The rukhsa, I just mentioned the permission, and it's okay, Quran makhluq. And no one left except Imam Ahmad. And Imam Ahmad was the most knowledgeable person at that time. And everybody was waiting for his word. And they tortured him badly. They lashed him. And some of his colleagues, some ulama, said, "Ya Imam, there's rukhsa here. Just take the rukhsa and just get out of this miserable situation." And he said in his prison cell, he said, "Look from this window." And he looked and said, "What do you see there?" He said, "I see people holding their pens and papers and waiting for what you say. So for me, I cannot take the rukhsa. Cannot. Because if I said what they want me to say, which is wrong, I'll misguide so many people. So I would rather die fi sabilillah, but I will not change my mind." There was another story similar to this. It happened in Andalusia after the Inquisition, when the Christian French came to Spain and they massacred Jews and Muslims. These 800 years of amazing Islamic civilization was a perfect example of peaceful coexistence. Jews, Christians, and Muslims were living in peace for 800 years in Andalusia. When the French came and they took over, they did this ethnic cleansing. You either convert or leave or die. You cannot stay here and practice Islam or practice Judaism. No more mosques or synagogues, only church, and that's it. So in order to ensure that these people, because many people said, "Yeah, we convert." They said, "Okay, we're Christians," but they are not. So to ensure that they are not Muslims, they gather them and put them on lines, and they cook pork. And they ask everyone to come and eat from this pork, just to ensure that, these Muslims don't do that. To ensure that they have converted really. One of the imams was on the line. The imam of the city was on the line, and the cook actually knew him. And he came and whispered to him on his ears, "Imam, I know stuff, but I will give you a piece of lamb. We cook so many things, so I will give you a piece of lamb, so eat it, don't worry, you'll be fine. It's not going to be pork. So when your turn comes, I'll give you a piece of lamb." And he said to him, "Well, you and I know it's a piece of lamb, but everybody else will look at me and say, okay, the Imam ate pork, and they will follow me. And I will not do that." And he did not. That's the fiqh. That's fiqh of understanding the kind of responsibility he has. So in some situations like this, if you are alone, then you can take the permission. But if you are a leader and people will follow you, whatever choice you make, they will follow you, then it becomes mandatory for you to do what is right. Of course, the ulama talked about the fiqh of enjoining good and forbidding evil. One of the things that we need to understand is we need to define what's munkar, right? What's evil? What's considered evil, right? So to be changed. So what's evil is what is well established in the Quran and the Sunnah as evil, not what you think is an evil, right? If you see your neighbor or one of your family members drinking, you have to, that's evil. Quran says it's haram, so there's no doubt about it. Okay? When you see someone abusing an animal, tell him haram, taqillah. Don't abuse this animal. But what happens is that sometimes people change what they think is evil, although there are different opinions about it. Someone listen to music. Oh, brother, it's evil, haram, taqillah. Don't change anything. So ulama said, لا إنكار في المختلف عليكم. I wish everybody understand this. When the ulama have developed different opinions, some said halal, others said haram, you have the right to choose any of these madhahib, but don't ever consider those who follow the other madhab of doing something wrong, and therefore you have to change it. And this is what so many ignorant people do. يا أخي لا إنكار في المختلف عليه. The ulama have developed different opinions. You follow this opinion, good for you. I will follow this opinion. Don't tell me I'm wrong. I have seen people really ignorant. They consider saying Ameen loudly when the Imam read Al-Fatiha is like your salah is batil, invalid. And this poor Shafi'i guy went to predominantly Hanafi community, and the Imam says Waladdallin, and he was the only one who said Ameen, and everybody was looking at him. After salah, they told him, you never do this again, or never come to this masjid. Don't want anybody. It's like it's munkar. It is not munkar. I mean, munkar must be clearly munkar. All Muslims accept it as munkar. Like drinking or adultery or killing or abusing, all these things are well established munkar. That's what needs to change. But when someone does something in a different way, that's not munkar. What you think to be, I have some issues, like I've seen many issues like this. And people think perhaps sincerely that what you're doing is wrong, your salah is invalid, you cannot do this. I have a lot of stories. 23 years. I don't know how did I do that. It's tough to be an imam. I am thinking seriously about writing a book. Okay, so you know the wiping on the socks issue, right? Some ulama said, yes, you can wipe on the socks. And the Hanafi madhab said, no, you cannot wipe on the socks. It has to be leather. But wiping on a thick socks in the winter, it cannot do that. Imam Abu Hanifa, in the last part of his life, when he got sick, he did it. And he said, now I'm doing what I prohibited people from doing. So I was in the masjid, and I was making wudu, and I was wiping on my socks, and someone saw me, and he ran to his uncles, and he said, listen, I've seen something terrible. The imam is wiping on the socks. Okay. Then these uncles with long beards, big turbans, and came to me, Imam, can we talk to you? Yeah, of course, sure. And they said, we are not scholars. We are humble people. Everybody says this as introduction, you know, right? And I said, well, okay, now you're going to speak like a scholar now. And they said, because we are Hanafis and wiping on the socks invalidate the wudu, and if you pray with this invalid wudu, your salah will be invalid, and we don't feel comfortable that our imam wipes on the socks. And I said, okay, why don't you come with me to the bathroom to see what I'm doing, to just ensure that my wudu is good and my tahara is good. I mean, how far would you go to see what I'm doing in my personal life to determine whether to pray behind me or not? Oh yeah, because we don't feel good about this. And did you read anything about the subject? No, but we know, we've been told that you cannot. Okay, I said I did read the various opinions, and I believe that it is absolutely valid to wipe on the socks. However, just to give you peace of mind, I promise you one thing and you promise me one thing. How is that? I said, okay, sounds good. So I promise I'm not going to do this when I lead you in prayer. And I want you to promise me to read about the subject from different perspective. See who allowed it and who did not allow it. Just do some research. But for them, that was a munkar. That was like wrong. And then, therefore, it has to be changed. That's not munkar. That's like following a madhab that's different from yours. That's not munkar. So, لا إنكار في المختلف عليه is a very important rule that help us live in peace. Okay? I have some family members who don't listen to any kind of music. Right? I record Arabic poetry with a music background. I like Arabic poetry. I can share some with you if you're interested. But the background, little music background, harams. Okay? But that's not munkar. Why? Because many ulama said this kind of music is okay. So that's not munkar. So to understand what is munkar is the point of departure here. So what's munkar is what is established in the Quran and the Sunnah clearly as munkar. Of course, you don't want to change munkar and cause a larger munkar out of it. Like I've seen also in the 80s and 90s in Egypt when very zealous Muslim young people, they see everything as munkar, right? If you don't grow your beard, that's munkar, brother. Taqallah, fear Allah. Why don't you do this? If your hijab is not good enough, no, sister, fear Allah, that's not good hijab, and so on and so forth. Everything does not fit their understanding is wrong, and they change it by force, and that's what makes many people hate these people, right? So the ulama said that if you replace evil with good, that would be perfect. If you reduce the evil, that's also good. You might not change it 100%, but you reduce the evil from 100% to 50 or 40%, that's good. But if you replace evil with equal evil, that you have to really consider this. If you replace evil with a greater evil, that's prohibited. I know some actually, they have a TV and they consider TV haram, and they took it and just smashed it. And you can imagine what kind of damage this caused when the father comes back from work and he see the TV he bought destroyed by his older son, or all pictures of their mothers when they were young, and they are having pictures with makeup and not covering their shoulders and so on. Go and cut it off and burn it. It's haram, it's hell. Ya akhi, that's not, publishing it is haram, but what's wrong with having their personal pictures? I mean, they keep it to themselves. So sometimes you try, maybe with good intention, to change something, but this causes bigger evil. So one has to be smart and use like sound judgment before they. It's better sometimes just to keep it the way it is. Examples: Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Mecca, 13 years. What is greater evil than worshiping idols? That's the greatest evil you can think about, right? And there were how many idols around the Kaaba? 360. People worship them. And the Prophet ﷺ not only did not ask one of his companions to smash this evil, but Quran prohibited Muslims from insulting these gods. To us, false gods, but to them, it's their gods. That's why we Muslims, we never burn the Bible or the Torah. We never, disrespected places of worship. in Muslim countries for centuries. Jews and Christians, they used to worship freely. Yeah, we know they are wrong, we are right, but we cannot force ourselves on that. We cannot do that. Cannot do that. And I've seen also extremists who are attacking Christians in Egypt. Why? Because they said God is three and God has a son. And this is their analogy. If someone insulted your mother, what would you do? I'm going to kill him. So, okay, now they insult Allah, who is dearer to us than our parents. So they have to be punished. This has nothing to do with Islam and Islamic law. This justification does not really have any meaning. So one has to understand what Islam says before he or she change the munkar. There was a story of Imam al-Qayyim narrated his teacher, Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, when the Mongols came and destroyed Baghdad and took over all these areas, the Middle East. He would pass by the soldiers of the Mongols or Tatarian. They were drunk, and some of them actually converted to Islam. He would see them drunk, and people just went to forbid this evil, and he said, just let them, leave them, because when they sober, they will cause so much destruction and killing. It's better for them to be drunk. Let them be drunk. The maslaha is just to keep them drunk. Wake up and cause so much damage. So I just want to end with saying that enjoining good and forbidding evil may cost us a heavy price. We should be ready for that. Surah Luqman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when Luqman advised his son, Ya bunayya aqim as-salata wa'mur bil ma'ruf wanha 'anil munkar wasbir 'ala ma asabak. Establish prayer, enjoin good, forbid evil, and be patient for what befalls you. Because when you want to change the status quo, you will be targeted. When you challenge the status quo made by powerful and strong people, then you will be the target. So we know that. We should be ready for that. Rasulullah ﷺ said the best shaheed is Hamza, and someone who stood up and spoke truth to powerful, corrupt leader, and he got killed as a result of this. So this is jihad of al-kalima. Someone has to say it. Someone has to stand up and say, Taqillah, what you're doing is haram. There are so many stories of ulama who stood up and they spoke truth to power. Some of them lost their life, and some of them were saved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I don't know if I shared this story with you before. The story of Bourqiba, the dictator of Algeria, or Tunisia, I think. Tunisia, yeah. Habib Bourqiba. And the Grand Mufti at that time was one of the great Imams in the modern time. His name is At-Tahir ibn Ashur, author of the wonderful tafsir book, At-Tahrir wa Tanwir. And he's the greatest scholar when it comes to maqasid al-Sharia, the objectives of Sharia. And the Shatibi was the Imam of maqasid in his time, and Tahir ibn Ashur was the Imam of the modern time when it comes to maqasid al-Sharia. Yani. So Bourqiba decided to, or he noticed that people in Ramadan don't have full-time work, and the economy actually goes down because of low production and so on. So he said it's okay not to fast because our goal is to increase or to empower our economy, and so on and so forth. Right? So he asked people not to fast in order to have better economy. And he wanted the Grand Mufti to give a fatwa. Yes, if Ramadan or fasting during Ramadan will hurt our economy, it's okay not to fast. And the Imam had to make a statement because people are, what on earth is this? And everybody was waiting for the Imam's speech. And the Imam's speech was super short. He came TV, national TV, all cameras or live, and he says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم صدق الله وكذب برقبة. That was a speech. That's the end of it.
Imam, can you translate it for the young one?
He said he recited the ayat that says you should fast during Ramadan. Allah said the truth and Burqiba is lying. Right? So I'll stop here a few minutes for your comments and questions. Nothing happened. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him. Alhamdulillah.
A question about what you were talking about. The Taliban, I forget what year, when they blew up those statues, did any Muslim scholars?
All Muslim scholars around the world told them, for God's sake, don't do it. Yeah, it is munkar, understand. But look at the consequences of what you are doing. So many Muslims live as minority in Buddhist countries. What will happen? They'll be slaughtered.
Scholars did.
They did. I remember very well. They begged them. Look at, because in Islamic law or Islamic fiqh, there's something called considering al-ma'alat. Consider the consequences of the act. So what would be the ma'alat? Terrible. Muslims will be slaughtered. Like in China, in Singapore, in many different places, those who worship Buddha, and you go and destroy them, and they will pay the price. You might not pay the price, Taliban, but they will. So the damage, that's a perfect example of causing more damage than the evil you are trying to change. Don't do it. Rasulullah did not do it.
Well, that's in Egypt, this Christian wanted to destroy the antiquities by doing something actually something by hand. That
Talking to the mic. I was talking to the mic.
until they discovered and But I was gonna ask you if you see President Biden yesterday when he said something about use hadith of Rasul. ورأيكم كرما والطالبين بيده ولم يكن بلسانه he used that.
He quoted this hadith?
Yes.
Okay.
And he said Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Okay. So in what context it's okay, but he's ignorant, does not understand what he's talking about. If I got the chance to
What the context was. What
Why did he say that? He was talking about his
Talking to Mike.
policy, he was talking about his policies like that. And he created hadith.
So the problem is that he does not consider what's happening in Gaza as evil.
Yes.
He does not see it as evil. He sees Hamas and Palestinians are evil and they are the bad guys and Israel is the good guys. So this is the problem. He does not know what's munkar. And how can you convince someone when 15,000 people got killed, 7,000 children massacred, and all schools, universities, churches, and masajid are destroyed, and he does not see this as munkar yet.
Imam, could you explain the Prophet Muhammad the concept la darar wa la dirar? Because
Yes. Right.
What you're talking about.
Yeah. La darara wa la dirar. This hadith is so short, as you can see, but it is so meaningful because it applies to thousands of cases. Right? So, la darar, no harm. Wa la dirar, no harm should be caused to others. Don't initiate harm. Don't harm and don't initiate harm or respond to, or cause harm to others. And what's harm? Anything that's harmful, that's prohibited in Islam. Anything that's harmful is prohibited in Islam. That's a very general ruling. And sometimes the ulama resort to this hadith to say this haram because it's harmful. Muslims used to have debate about smoking because they did not know the medical facts about the negative effect of smoking on one's health. So some said, oh, it is okay, permissible, it's makruh. Until the modern time, Scientists are in agreement, and they showed what kind of diseases that smoking cause. And now in the modern time, there's no debate. Smoking is haram because it hurts. It hurts you. It hurts those who get the second hand, smoking, and it hurts economy. It hurts everybody, right? So la darara wala dirar. I remember when we used to take the public transportation in Egypt, when people are like sardine, and people in the middle of the summer in Egypt, it's very hot, and people are senseless. They just start smoking. Man, you are killing. We barely can breathe. And they have no sense of harming others. They don't care about other people's feeling. So anything that harms or inflict harm on others is prohibited. And this, as I said, can be applied to millions of cases. So one of the wonderful hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, anything that harms people should not be done.
Imam, can you allude to how the process should be done? So if something is evil, and your effort should be to stop it with your hand, or to stop it verbally, or to, at the least the weakest is to consider that it's wrong. So just a method of how you should go about it.
Yeah. So the hadith is telling us that in some cases it's difficult to change the munkar because this can cause so much damage to you or to your family members. So if you think if you try to change this munkar, this can cause so much harm to you, then change it only within your heart. Okay. So again, what is the point of changing it with your heart? What difference would it make? It's not going to affect the evil, but it will affect you. You don't want to lose your humanity. Because when you see evil and you just live with it, and I warn my kids actually, and I want to warn everybody, because as they said, kathratul imsas tufqid al ihsas. So when you see this munkar every day, it became normal, then it will be like the guy who worshipped Allah for 60 years and living in this corrupt city, and the punishment, actually he was part of this punishment. He was punished with them because he did not care. So changing it within our heart is just to say, Ya Allah, I'm not part of this. I don't approve this. I hate this. I wish I can change this. I cannot, but I wish I can. There are so many things around us. Should be all these banking system is based on haram. Any grocery store you go, you see a section for wine. Now marijuana is legal in many different places. I couldn't imagine one day I'll drive in the highway and I see the big sign, free weed, come and enjoy yourself. Free weed? What's next? I don't know what's next. So Islam says this is the limit. Okay? If anybody passes this limit, then the community collectively has the responsibility to bring him back. Otherwise, that become normal, and then people will go further because it's not going to stop anywhere. It's a slippery slope. It has to stop somewhere. Naam?
My question is for medical practice. The medical ethics say at any given time you do something right. What you think is the right at that moment you understand that's right and you do it. But in what I've encountered over the years in medical practice is that when you interact with other physicians and they are making a bad decision, does that become evil? The use for that as one. And how do we approach it? And years ago, as a young physician, I was sort of reluctant to interact and point out to other people. But then I decided after a couple of years, 3 or 4 years, that if I find something like that, I'll be civil and gentle, but I will let the person know, fellow physician or whoever it is, in a very quiet, confidential way. Because if I don't say it or do it at a later time, then I think I'm ignoring that evil.
I think you are doing the right thing. You answered the question actually. You did the right thing, And I know, with all due respect, doctors have huge ego and they don't like anybody to correct them. Am I right? So you have to use the best way possible, the softest way possible, because again, people don't like advice. Generally, nobody likes to receive advice. People like to give advice sometimes, but receiving advice means that you are better than me, you are higher than me. You know something I don't know. You are wiser than me, and nobody likes this. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said that when you advise someone, advise them in the best way possible. And as you say, an-nasiha ala al-mala fadiha. When you advise someone in public, that you are shaming, and he will be more stubborn, because people take the defensive mood immediately. Once you start telling them what you're doing is wrong, they will just be defensive, and they may argue. You know, the point is not to embarrass the person. The point is to just convey the message in the softest way possible. Yes.
So I don't have several questions, but I'll just ask one. The sister asked about how do you go about to enforce, which is, make people do good things, but forget bad things. This day and age, in a modern, democracy that we have, and at least in West, we can go through the legislation. If something is really bad, get people together, start a petition, and change the law. And then yours will be a joint decision instead of a guy standing, and I need to be a I come from one country. They will grab us in the middle of the street. Let's go to mosque, brother, because it's door prayer. And I'll say, I'm a doctor, I'm going to run the emergency room, take care of the patient. He said, I don't care. This is a prayer.
Oh my God.
So I'm not this is a very extreme example, just to put the pointer from. But we have so many other avenues. One of which is choose the one which is the best for the whole community instead of creating a fuss about everything.
I agree. We need to be creative. There's not just one way of changing munkar. There are tons of ways, and we have to use whatever tools available, individually and collectively as a family. You are right. There are ways to change munkar by voting, campaigning, lobbying. But the goal has to be clear that we want to change this munkar, and we have to brainstorm what would be the best way to do that collectively. Sure.
So now something is so clear in Quran, mentioned, without any doubt, why should we go around and find other ways to explain it differently and just because of tawatur or whatever you call it. For example, washing the feet. Instead of my that says, I have it right in front of me.
Mhm.
So unless you change the jurakum to jilakum, like the Shia sect has done it, it clearly says wash your feet up to the ankles. Why should we say masa and other things? And I have certain issues too. I just took a shower. Now I do fresh mind, will do a pain, and I know my feet are clean. So intuitively, I think that I don't need to wash my feet. I can just massage. But when the Quran says what it says, then we should stick to it.
It is not as simple as you think it is. Yes. One of the main chapters in the science of usul al-fiqh, which I wish, inshallah, one day we can study in detail, is what's known as ilm al-dilala. Dilala. Because Quran is the same Quran, no change, right? Part of the Quran, let's keep it this way, part of the Quran is absolutely clear and you will never find any disagreement among the scholars. Another part has some ambiguity. And this ambiguity is part of any language, right? Sometimes a speaker gives a speech or write an article and you get one understanding and another reader get another understanding. Language by nature is subject to interpretation. And by the way, just for your information, there are 7 qira'at or styles of Quran recitation. 4 of them recited arjulikum and 4 recited arjulakum. And there are 8 because one of them actually uses both. So other Quran recitation legitimate recitation says arjulakum and others arjulikum. So the Ja'fari madhab is not wrong because arjulikum refer to imsahu, not ighsilu, wash or wipe. Okay, so I remember the first time I actually was exposed to this concept of reading or knowing the rationale behind the other opinion was when I was studying the first year in college, the word qir or quru, والمطلقات يتربصن بأنفسهن ثلاثة قروء. So divorced women should have the iddah period, which is ثلاثة قروء. Quru is the plural of qir. Okay, so some consider qir to be the monthly period, and others say the qir is the purity time. All right, so the iddah should be counted as 3 monthly periods or 3 purifications. It makes a big difference. The iddah could be 3.5 or 4 months or only 3. So the first opinion, the word qir, how Arabs use the word qir before the revelation of the Quran. So the first group presented evidence, and I said, it's so clear. So why you have a second opinion? I'm not going to read the second opinion. There's no need. Evidence are super clear. But I had to read the other one. So I started reading the second opinion's rationale, and it was very convincing. So how to understand the text is different story. So it's not as simple as you. It is simple when it comes to Allah is one, there's life after death. You have to pray, you have to, all these fundamentals are clear. But when it comes to ayatul ahkam in particular, it is subject to change. And Imam Shafi'i actually put different levels of the dilala, the meaning of the words. Sometimes it's called nas, it is super clear. All right? But sometimes the dalalat al-ibara, and so on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intentionally allowed Muslims to have different opinions, and that's mercy and flexibility. If everything is just one way, then our religion would have been much more rigid.
But I think the issue is, if there are several killers, we accept that. I think that's really shaking the foundation of Islam. We take a pride that Quran is not a single, thing has changed in the Quran 1400 years.
Nothing changed. Who said Quran changed?
But kira, if you say seven kira, the kira means
Okay.
just an accent. Why
Okay.
did they say Abdullah? Everybody says Abdullah. Why everybody say Abdullah?
We have to have another session about ulum al-Quran. Okay, Quran was revealed in 7 tongues to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam because people have different dialect, and Quraysh was the main tribe, but Quran also is revealed in the language of other tribes. Some people like Abdullah ibn Abbas said, I did not know what is the meaning of qaswara or the meaning of hananan. He's from Quraysh, he speaks Arabic, but these words are not used in Quraysh, are used in other tribes. So these different qira'at, it's an ocean of knowledge. It's something that we should be proud of. The meaning does not change. The meaning does not change. In this case, it gives us 2 options instead of 1. It could have been 1 qira'ah, arjulakum, end of the story, but Allah gave us 2 options. What's wrong with that? We should be happy that we have options. Right? So we don't have more than 1 Quran. We have 1 Quran. But this qira'ah can help us understand Islamic ruling, or 2 Islamic ruling instead of 1. But some ayat, it's just like ayat al-mawarith. Get 1/3, it's 1/3. Don't have 2 interpretations about it. It's super clear and definitive. But sometimes Al-Quran comes in a language that has some ambiguity to allow these various interpretations. All right? It meant to be this way. When Allah wants all of us to agree on one thing, the language is super clear. Nobody can argue except crazy people. Like someone says that Al-Quran says about alcohol, إنما الخمر والميسر والأنصاب والأزلام رجس فلا من عمل فاجتنبوه. اجتنبوه means like stay away from it. Said, but he didn't say it's haram. Okay, so that's like ignorant approach to the meaning. But the meaning, the exact meaning of the Quran could be absolutely clear, and sometimes the Quran does not say anything about the subject. How is that? What did the Quran say about organ donation? Nothing. Does this mean that there's no legislation in Islam about it? Can you donate blood? Can you donate your kidney? Can you donate your heart? You have different opinions. Where should we go to seek guidance? You don't expect the Quran and the Sunnah to talk about organ donation or how to pray when you go in the moon, right? So it's
The Quran at the same time doesn't really tell us how to pray. It doesn't matter where we pray and how we pray, because it didn't tell us pray like this. So if it did not say that, how to pray, then we have the way. We can pray the way, or we can listen to Imam, any Imam. But when it says something, and then we say something else around it, because of care, I know if I go to the Pakistani who speaks Pashto in the national language, Urdu, I speak Farsi, if I can learn 3 or 4 languages, why couldn't the people in Mecca learn it the way it was revealed properly? Why what was the need for revealing it in several different dialects?
okay.
This intellectual talk.
Well, I think this answered the first point of discussion today. What topics that we need to talk about, and perhaps this is one of them. We need to talk about ulum al-Quran, and we need to talk about usul al-fiqh, because people think, Islam and fiqh is so simple and easy. Philosophy is so deep and complex. Islam can also be deep and complex. It is. That's why our ulama did not achieve such high level of scholarship out of nothing. We need to know. The more we know, the more know how ignorant we were. You learn more, you say, oh my God, I was so ignorant. The more you learn, you find out that how couldn't I find out about this for so long? Why nobody taught me about this? The good news that I'm here. If you're interested. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك والعصر ان الانسان لفي خسر الا الذين امنوا وعملوا الصالحات تواصوا بالحق تواصوا بالصبر سبحان ربك رب العزه عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.